Welcome back, guys. This is Diganshu Vyas, and we are on a series of data science discussions and machine learning discussions. We are a bunch of petroleum engineers who are aiming to bring forward a lot of mathematics and intuitions behind various data science and machine-related topics, machine learning-related topics. Today's discussion is a carry forward from the last discussion, which was a carry forward itself from a prior discussion. So today we are continuing our discussion on linear regression. We discuss about conceptual backgrounds. We talk about optimization scenarios, gradient descent, and mean squared error, R squared, and stuff on high level in a presentation in the last session. In this session, we will do the hard coding and implementation of the same, and you will see how, if you have some data, how you can code a linear regression algorithm without using scikit-learn or any other thing. So no package required, only pure Python, and you want to do based on pure mathematics. If you want to do machine learning, today is the session for you to understand that. So it will be explained by Mr. Jayesh Chahar. Welcome, Jayesh. We have with us Kushagra Mittal, who you all remember from the predictive maintenance related class. He's a fellow petroleum engineer, having over 2 years of experience in the industry. So he's going to join us in the discussion for today. So let's get to this class, and if in case we have time later on, we'll discuss doubts and queries. Please go ahead, Jayesh.
Yeah. So yes, hello everyone. Today we will see the mathematics behind this linear regression that we have discussed in our earlier lecture. So in this lecture, you will see that we will use the same data, same function, but without using scikit-learn, we will get a best fitted line for the data and perform the linear regression. So yeah. So first of all, the first task of this project is importing all the superpowers of Python. By superpowers, I mean the libraries of Python that will be used in this project. We will not gonna use scikit-learn. So we will use NumPy, Pandas, NumPy for the array generations and all things, Pandas for making data frame, Seaborn and Matplotlib for visualizing the data. So first step is importing all the libraries. So I have imported these libraries. Now my second step will be data preparation. This step is from our previous video only. Previous video in which we have implemented the linear regression by using scikit-learn. You can see that we have taken this same line, same equation of line y equal to 2x minus 3, and this same function we are taking in account for making the data for data preparation. As you can see, we are adding the error term in some y value that is given by 2x minus 3, and the x value is given by numpy's function linear spaced between -1 to 1. So yeah, here you can see that my x is in between -1 to 1 and my y is in between -5 to -1, given by the equation y equal to 2x minus 3 with some error added. And this distribution of points around the line is due to that error thing only. So yeah, I will define this function. After that, I will make my x train and y train from the data maker. This function only. I have made 500 points with the error range of 0.2. And after that, we have visualized our initial values of x and y. Now I have assigned two variables, w actual and b actual. You can see here y equal to 2x minus 3 is written in form of y equal to wx plus 3. So our w will be 2 and b will be minus 3. So I have assigned these two variables, w actual and b actual, for our given equation. That can be used later on. We will see where it is used. And after that, I have made a data frame for my x train values and y train values. That's for making this data frame. I have imported Pandas. Pandas is just like a Microsoft Excel of our Python. As you can see here, we can make a data frame just like Microsoft Excel, in which we used sheets. So I have made a data frame for my x train and y train values. And after that, the each row is I have made array out of each row. You can see that for capital X, I have made the array of x train column. And for y, I have made the array of y train column and you here you can see that I have used two square bracket. Why I have used that? I have used that these two square brackets so that my shape of the array will be 500 into 1. If I have used only one square bracket instead of two, that will be in one directional only. You can see that, and then it will only come 500, 500 comma nothing. So for adding the second dimension in my array, I have used double square brackets. Why I'm adding the second dimension is because while training these in further cost functions and more functions that will be coming next in the project, we need to have a 2D array. That's why.
Also, one more thing here. Uh, if you compare with go forward and compare it with scikit-learn's implementation, if you look at the documentation, you will always find that the X array is always a 2D array, right? 2D matrix, whatever you want to call it. So there will be always two axes in the X. Even if it has one column, let's say 100 well in 100 rows, it won't be a vector. It will be 100 comma 1. So that means there are two axes. One is x axis and y. So there is like the row axis and the column axis. So if you input into scikit-learn, if you provide the x, that is the feature vector or the feature matrix being one dimensional, then it will give you an error. So you always have to convert the feature matrix to a two-dimensional matrix. You always have to make sure that the feature matrix is a 2D matrix, not even a 3D, but a 2D matrix, because that's how scikit-learn is formed. So it's a good practice that Jayesh is doing that even without scikit-learn, so that everything remains homogeneous. Please go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And it will be a great practice for you that always take the feature values, X value or Y value that is going in our scikit-learn of any package, whether it is linear for linear regression or for gradient boosting, for random forest, anything that need to be in two dimensional. Otherwise, you will get an error that the dimensions are not matching. So keep this in mind. Now, next step is our defining the cost function. As we have discussed in our last lecture that we will be going to use mean squared error as our cost function that will define that, okay, how bad my model how bad my model is from the actual model that will be giving me a good accuracy. Or you can say that cost function will tell us about the how bad my model is and how I need to improve more of my model. If I am getting cost function value high, then it means my model is not good. It is giving a very bad values. So yeah, so cost function will be our mean squared error. So for that, what I have done here is I am making a new thing z that will be equal to dot product of x and w, where my w will be given in the input in the cost function. So after dot product of x and w, I am adding b. Why I have made this cost function? Because in the first step of my training process, I will give a random values for w and b, because let us assume, yeah, now I know that the actual value of w and b is 2 and minus 3. But for unknown data set, you will not be able, you are going to imply linear regression on an unknown data set. You will not be able to know that what is the value for actual w and actual b. So you have to give some random value for w and b, and the linear model algorithm will run itself for getting the actual value of w and b by reducing this cost function. That's why I am defining this w as a dot product of x and w. W will be given by a user or me only, and b is also given by me. And after that, I am calculating loss. This is not the exact loss function. I am just given this y minus z. Y is our value of actual y that was given here. You can see this y train is y, and z is that we have calculated by using dot product of x and w and b. And that square, the square of that term is will be our loss. And after that, I have find the value of z, or you can say I have find the value of total length of z, or you can say total number of points that are present here you remember that I have generated 500 points, so the value of m will be going to be 500. And after that I have calculated the loss function that is given by j. You can see that it is nothing but mean absolute mean square absolute error of mean square error of the given values that we have discussed in our last lecture only. So this
Jesh, one thing. So for the audience, if you look at np.x comma w, the main reason we are taking dot product is that, for example, if you imagine your model to be something like y equals to m1x1 plus m2x2 plus m3x3 plus w plus b, or in this case m is nothing but w, so w1x1 plus w2x2 plus w3x3 plus some intercept b. Now this summation of w and x, so you can imagine it a dot product of two vectors. One is a horizontal vector of w's, w1, w2, w3, and one is a vertical vector of x's, x1, x2, and x3. Now, what is x1, x2, x3? x1 is one column of the data frame, x2 is another column of the data frame, x3 is another column of the data frame. Currently, we are going with just univariate data, that is X train is just a single column, but in reality, most of the scenarios in multiple iteration, X train has multiple columns. It will be X1, X2, X3. For example, in order to calculate, let's say the price of a house, the multiple features can be the number of rooms, it can be X1, then comes the location from a mall, X2, then comes the number of floors, X3, the area X4, and the output will be house price. So all these together, all the X's together makes one feature matrix. And one row, if you take just one row at a time, that becomes a vector, right? One dimensional vector. And for that one row, every feature will have a particular weight. So suppose there are four features, X1, X2, X3, X4. So there will be four weights, W1, W2, W3, W4. So in order to do the W dot X that you see in this loss function equation, you cannot just do cross like term by term multiplication. You have to do a dot product because you have to make sure that the properties of dot product are followed. And then finally, once you do the dot product, it will result in a single value. It will collapse everything to a scalar. And that scalar you add to the intercept, and then you subtract it with the original y, square it up, take the mean, there you go.
There you are.
So what you are doing is, for every row, you are calculating the predicted value of y, and for every row, you also have the actual value of y, right? So you take the difference between both of these, square them up. You have the squared difference for every row. So suppose there are 100 rows, you want to take the mean of the squared difference. That's exactly what loss function for the entire data frame is, right? Now, depending on how well your estimated W and B are close to the actual W and B, this loss function will change. If the actual W and B is far away from the estimated W and B, then the cost will be huge. So in order to minimize, like Jayesh will now tell, the next part will be updating these things. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I want to add some more points in this post function, as Divyanshu sir has reminded me that yeah, post function will basically tell you that how good or how bad your prediction from the model. Like here for the first step, I have given some random values of W and B. So it will tell me how bad or how good my prediction from this model is compared to my actual values. So post function will tell me about that only, or you can say it will give me an idea of how accurate my model is, if we see in common terms. And again, this dot value here you can see I have written the shapes of x and b and w and all those things. As you can see, the shape of x will be 500 cross 1, means it will be consisting of 500 rows and one column. It will be a vertical type of matrix, and my w shape is 1 cross 1. When I will take the dot product of both x dot w, when I will take the x dot w, then my resultant resultant matrix will be of shape 500 cross 1. And when I add b to each of that value, so my z will also become a vertical column type of matrix, that will be having the shape that will be equal to x shape or y shape. As you here you can see that in data frame, the shape of my x train was 500 cross 1 and y train was 500 cross 1. So the z that is calculated here, that will also have a shape of 500 cross 1. And from this function we will get the value of cost function, or you can say loss function. And now our motive is to reduce the value of loss function. As we have seen in our previous video, several graphs regarding the discussion of gradient descent, that how we can reach the optimum minimum point for w and b, how we can get the value of w and b for which my loss function will be minimum. So we will see how we will do that. Yeah.
Just a quick add up, like right now just told about one by one dot product for every row. But we don't have to do it because in Python we have vector multiplications and vector algebra, like linear algebra through NumPy. So this equation that Jayesh has written down, z equals to np dot dot, it's valid for every dimension of x, right? Suppose my x is, it has 4 features, there is 4 columns and 100 rows, or let's keep 500 rows. So my matrix, x as a matrix, its dimensions will be 500 rows, comma, 4 features. So x is 500, comma 4, right?
Yep.
And my w, right? W will be 4, comma 1, right? Because it's a 1D vector, because weight is unique for every column. You won't have a different weight for every element of the column. You will have, for one column, there will be one weight. For another column, there will be W2. For third column, there will be W3. It's the weightage given to each feature, right? So the weight matrix becomes 4, comma 1 because there are 4 features. If there were 5 features, it would have been 5, comma 1. So X is 500, comma 4, W is 4, comma 1, 500, comma 4, 4, comma 1. It's a valid multiplication or dot product of 2 matrices. So the resultant matrix will be 500, comma 1, right? Which is 1D column vector. And that's exactly the dimension of Y. Y was also 500, comma 1, one dimension vector. Now both of these tall vectors can be subtracted and they can be squared, and np dot mean can be applied to them. So we don't have to do element by element. This exact thing that Jayesh has written down in the function is valid across all dimensions. So we don't have to worry about any new thing. This is perfectly fine, even if you have multi-dimensional scenario. So let's proceed, Jayesh.
Yeah. So now my aim will be to get the values of w and b for my minimum value of loss function. So as so here are some formulas that I will going to use. The j is our loss function only, that we have already calculated above. That is my mean squared error. Now, as you remember from our last lecture, we have seen a gradient descent curve. We have seen a valley type curve. So in that valley type curve, we need to reach the minimum point, or you can say lowest point. And for reaching the minimum point, I have to make use of mathematics, or you can say I make use of differentiation. So how I will use that differentiation, we will see that. So first of all, this loss function, my loss function will be a function of w and b. So from this loss function, I have calculated the values of del z by del w and del z by del b. And by using the values of these derivatives, I will going to get new values of w and b. And after many number of iterations, as my cost function will go on decreasing by updating the values of w and b, so my cost function will reach the minimum point. So we are going to use these derivatives of del z with respect to del w and with respect to b. As you can see from the formulas, these are just a simple differentiation that we have learned in our high school only. As you can see, j, my cost function was 1 by m y minus wx plus b to the power 2. So del z del j by del w is given by 2 come forward, and this minus sign is of because of minus the w dot x. And here one point here is that we are calculating this whole term by transpose of x. This is done so that again our, if we just calculate with the x, so our calculation shape will not match, as we have to use the dot product here. So that's why x transpose is used for calculating here, for multiplying x here. In a similar way, when we calculate the different derivative value with respect to b, we get this type of formula. And now I have defined I have again defined a function gradient that will take the value of w, b, x, and y, and it will give me return of value of del j by del w and del j by del b. That is given by dw and db. As you can see here, I have calculated value of z, then calculated value of j by using the cost function that I have defined earlier. From that, I just calculated the value of del w and del b. I'm representing these 2 points as del w and del b. So I run this set of code, and after that, my final point before making my machine learn is getting random values for w and b. As I said initially, that I will assign some random values for my first step of some w and b. So here I have used random integer function of numpy for getting random values of w and b in range of 0 to 10. And after that, I'm also calculating the cost function for that random value. For example, if I run this set, this has given me random values of w and b as 6 and 7 respectively, and the value of my cost function for 6 and 7 as w will be equal to 105. You can see it is a high value for mean absolute mean square error. So now I will define my final function that will make my machine learn. How I will do that, let us see. So first of all, I have calculated z again, that we are calculating in our previous steps. From that, I have made a list of cost. It is an empty list. I will fill it up with the later on different values of cost function for different iteration. After that, I have used for loop. After that, I have used a for loop for making different iterations, so that with each iteration, my cost function will reduce, or it will be. You can see, if you can imagine, from the gradient the gradient descent valley, it is going towards the minimum point with each iteration, and you will going to see that in the coming graphs. So yeah, I have calculated my value of del w and del b, these derivatives, by using the gradient function. And after that, I am updating my values of w and b. Now this update, as you can remember from our last discussion, we have discussed something known as learning rate. Here you can see I have set the learning rate of 0.005, not too much, not too large, not too small. If I have taken it as a large value, then it will never come to the minimum point, as it will be type of fluctuate between the two in the values on the two sides. It will type of fluctuate among the two sides. And if I have taken this very small, like I have taken the value of learning rate as 0.00001, then it will never reach the minimum point as it will take a lot number of iterations, or lot of time to reach there. And after that, I'm appending my value of cost function for the updated values of w and b in my empty list that I have created above. And finally, I have assigned them after 1,000 iteration, or whatever the iteration that I will provide in my function of learning. After that, I will assign my final values as wf and bf, and this function will return me the final values of w and final values of b, as well as this cost list. So I will run this function, and after that, here you can see I have here you can see I have generated the values of w and b as 6 and 7. Now I will put those values of w and b in my learning function, and x and y I already defined earlier by data maker function, and I assigned the number of iterations as 1,000. So when I run from here, when I run this cell, after that I will going to know what are my final values of w and bf. So it is coming 2.15 and -3. And you remember the actual values for W and B was 2 and -3. So it is nearby that. Now from this plot, we are going to visualize that how my loss function is decreasing with the increasing number of iterations. So you can see as the number of iterations are increasing, my loss function, or that is also known as error or cost function, that is decreasing. And after a point of 400 iteration, it is nearby zero only. So my loss function has reached the minimum global minima point. And at that point, the value of my WF and BF given by my trained model is 2.15 and -3. So now for comparing the final results, I have made again a data frame of actual values of W and B and the values that are predicted by my model, my trained model values of W and B. It is, as you can see, actual was 2 and model parameter was 2.15. Similarly, actual value of B was -3 and from model I got -3. So I have plotted the line for my model that I have trained. So this line is the trained line, is my model line that I have trained, and the points are that I have made, or you can say these are the training points that I have given to my machine, and my machine has learned that okay, these points are following this pattern in a linear equation. And after that, the final point of every machine learning algorithm or machine learning are basically we doing so that we can make prediction for some features, future value. So here, I am giving value for which giving value of x for which I want to predict my y. Example, I have given 485, so it will predict my y as 1039, while the actual y that will be coming is 967. Here you can see that there is there is error of about 40-50 points. Actually, it is a linear regression, and we have made this also made some error in the initial stage. So yeah, this error is considerable. Yeah, so I think that's from my side.
Yeah, we are done with time. Thank you, Jayesh. Thanks,
Thank,
everyone.
thank you.
Thanks.